Hello, and welcome to an Inside the Treehouse mega super special event, the original pilot episode of You Heard Me Right. Behind the scenes rant starts now. Okay, way back on January 4th in the year 2020, myself, my creative partner Cooper, and 3 of my friends met up at Listen Up Audio in Atlanta, Georgia, to record a proof of concept for the show. Now, I had just completed the Spotify Sound Up Accelerator program in New York a few months earlier, and I was feeling super amped to try and see if the concept for You Heard Me Right actually made sense. Now, 2 of the original guest artists, Dan Bauman and EmmoLei Sankofa, are folks that you've already met this season. And this duo, along with our writer friend Myke, were the first brave souls to participate in this wacky arts experiment. There are a few structural differences that you may notice between this iteration of the show and what eventually ended up being the real thing. Well, clearly it's not recorded outdoors for one, but you'll also be able to hear the other ways that the show has evolved from its humble beginnings. Thank you to Spotify and Spotify Sound Up for believing in this project and giving us the chance to play with over 30 of the most incredible artists that we know. Enjoy.
So I actually kind of get my collaborative fix working in the film world. Mm-hmm. And making music for me has become a sort of meditation because
that's how my brother started playing piano.
That's my personal space to make decisions without having to have someone say, no, I don't like that. Can you change this? Because...
Welcome to You Heard Me Right, a creative experiment bringing together artists from all different walks of life. How does it work? We give a writer a theme in order to explore a piece of written prose based on our topic. We then give that piece to 2 different sound designers who are able to create an audio composition in any manner that they see fit. The 3 selected artists do not have any contact with one another until the day they come together to listen to the compositions, discuss the creative process, and anything else that they want to chat about. So, ready? Let's do this. The topic for today's show is...
what the world needs now.
My name is Dan Bauman. I'm a sound designer for theater, musician, podcaster, and this is my interpretation.
See, there were a bunch of white boys from the suburbs who played in a punk band.
I found myself explaining.
But they also loved Prince.
And that only kind of covered the what, but seemed to take us further from the how and the why. If you ever loved a weird artist, love to the extent that you felt compelled to justify and explain that love to your friends, this struggle should sound familiar.
See, the thing about the Dismemberment Plan is that they were fun. It was loud punk rock with a really funky rhythm section you could dance to it.
This seemed to be a little more illuminating to my friend, my poor friend who had initiated this conversation with me somehow. And I'll tell you what I told her, which is that the Dismemberment Plan changed my life. Their 3rd album came out in 1999. It was called Emergency and I, and was a whole record about that awkward transition from youth to adulthood that people tend to go through in their early 20s. The album was populated by fighting couples, young men with few friends, working dead-end jobs, lonely city streets, and the existential feeling of hopelessness that singer Travis Morrison calls simply the jitters. All of that sucks, right? Were I to ask you to sit through 45 minutes or so of a bunch of white guys singing about all that stuff, you would be right in asking me to please leave. But the twist here is that Emergency and I is a blast, because in addition to discussing 20-something middle-class ennui, the D-Plan would also like for you to move your ass. And this was the bit I was talking about, the life-changing thing. Emergency and I came out just in time for me to catch it as I was moving off to college to become a restless 20-something who had no idea what he was doing. The kind of person these songs were designed for. I also took myself super seriously and held a very strong opinion about music and art and stuff like that. And I kind of liked Emergency and I, but it was spazzy and off-kilter and strange to me. But I liked it enough to go see the band play live. I drove 2 hours to this tiny music venue in Atlanta, which is not there anymore, R.I.P. Echo Lounge. And the D-Plan played their spazzy, sweaty, funky music, and I could not help but move my ass. And that's when I got it, that you can be a soul-searching and alienated punk kid and also dance and have fun. That one can be an angry young man and also lighten up a little. The D-Plan were certainly not the first musicians to communicate something like this to people, but they were the ones that told it to me. The duality of that message, that angst and emptiness are a real problem, and that a good dance party can really uplift and maybe even save us, is a really vital one. You can't only offer the positive without acknowledging the negative. Luckily, I see plenty of artists teaching that lesson to their audiences now. Billie Eilish, Lizzo, Charlie Bliss. If the world is smart, we'll keep listening, and we will acknowledge our flaws and our sadness, and we will never stop dancing.
Hi, I'm EmmoLei Sankofa from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a composer, musician, sound artist, all things sound and music, and here's my piece. Here we go. Okay.
That was a thing, right?
Yeah, that was a thing. that was a thing. Okay, here we are.
What was beautiful about it is with this project, you and I did completely different, and I went as straight ahead as possible and did exactly what was written and then embellished on it, and you went completely the other direction. So it was beautiful. It was a great piece. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your process like in terms of just recording anyway?
Well, I'm more of a theater guy. I do sound design for live shows, so I have a script usually to work from. So I usually start with, I read the script probably 3 times minimum. I'll read it through just to read what the show is about. Mm-hmm. And then I'll read it again and just start making notes of what's actually, because a lot of times it's like, car horn, doorbell, whatever. So I'll write down what's written, and then I start designing, because I'll be like, oh, I can put this in. And it's funny because it depends on where I'm working. Certain places in town, you're just going to do what's on the page. Certain places, and it depends on the director.
Right.
And
it's kind of like film.
Is it?
Yeah, in a way, because even in like when I was listening to your piece, I was literally imagining a scene in a film.
That's kind of what I was trying. I was kind of just throwing everything I had at it. I was like, okay, we'll do a little design where we're in the room, and then we'll do some voiceover, and I'll put a little music under it. So I was just kind of, what was fun and beautiful about this was there were no rules, but I like parameters. I like being able to, like, we need this and we need this and we need that. And having no rules was really interesting because you can see where we went. I went completely straight ahead and you went completely abstract, and they were both really nice.
Yeah, see, it's funny that you mentioned that because, like, when I was younger, I was so adamant about, like, no rules. I mean, like, I just don't want any rules. It's restricting. But the older and the wiser I get when it comes to creating, I feel like boundaries make you more creative. Absolutely. Because you have to 100%. Be more resourceful. You have to be intentional. And that's, again, why you say, you know, like, this was challenging to me because I can
whatever
do
you want
so
is a scary
many things. And it's almost like I've just learned that when you go too abstract, sometimes you miss the mark because it's not relatable. And because this was like a personal thing, I wanted to create something that was relatable too. And then when you think about the topic within the prompt where we get to the end, and it made me even think about, like, when I was in college and I was listening to, like, indie bands or bands that were underground that people weren't really listening to, but they were, like, talking about, like, the 20-year-old angst and, you know, all of these things going on when you're, like, kind of coming out of college, but you're now into the real world. And it's like you're listening to things that feel good, but they're capturing, like, raw experiences that's going on for, like, people in your age group. And so that's kind of why I went the way I went with the lyrics too, because it's like when they talk about Lizzo and people who are making things that feel good, but then there's, like, when you start listening to the lyrics, you're like, wait a minute, should I be dancing to this? You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of sad, or this is like, man, this is real world stuff, but it's like, it makes you feel good at the same time. So it kind of, like, takes the weight off of the moment and what you're actually experiencing.
Yeah, I was that guy. I mean, I was a little less punk, more heavy metal, but I was a musician in heavy metal bands for, you know, a very long time. So I related to it on that level. And I was like, okay, I can see where we're at with that. But I just I didn't know what to do. So I went straight ahead with the text and played with the stuff around it and tried to make it kind of breathe on its own. It felt to me like a This American Life essay. So that's kind of where I kind of jumped off from and went with it.
Interesting. Were there any pieces that you created before you arrived at that final one, or was it just like you just dived in? And...
I just went. I have, whenever I work on something and I create something, I'll always make a demo, and the demo always ends up being the thing. Yeah. I never, like, I try to recreate it or improve upon it, and I just build on top of it. So I went in and I started recording the text.
Right.
So I just laid all that down, like, okay, and then I edited, tried to get down. I went over a little time, but I tried to get it down to where it, within the parameters of the time constraint. And then I said, okay, well, what can I do with this? All right, well, this is someone talking to someone else. So if we add some reverb on that, it'll be a voiceover. And then, well, where are we? Okay, let's put some ambient sound, because that's, in theater, I do that all the time. Yeah. I'm building environments that fill in the gaps of what the audience is seeing. So if we're in a diner, you're going to hear diner stuff. If we're outside, you'll hear birds and stuff. So I added that to it. And then I was like, okay, this is nice. So I just started noodling around on my keyboard and pulled my bass guitar out, and there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Myke Johns. I'm a writer, podcast producer, musician in Atlanta, Georgia, and I wrote What the World Needs Now. Well, hey, y'all.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you so much for responding to my writing the way that you did. It was both takes were really, really, really awesome. Hi.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for writing that challenge.
It was a
very
challenge.
Challenging.
Yeah, because I know that when I got the prompt. Was What the World Needs Now. And so I walked around thinking okay, what do I have to say, in response to that prompt?
There's a lot of answers to that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get deep and philosophical. I just wanted to sort of write casually and do what I do. But I was really curious, like when y'all got the piece, like what was the first thing that went through your head when you read it?
That's literally what happened. That sigh.
Like, what do I do?
Yeah. I got overwhelmed for a second because I was like, how do you create something to this? Like, I just didn't want to create something that would destroy the moment. You know what I mean? Because you were very, like, detailed.
Yeah.
And it had painted this picture in my mind. And again, it's like no rules. So I'm like, okay, where do we go here? You know what I mean? So that was like the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, it read to me like an essay. So I said, okay, and just kind of started doing something. So, okay, let me get the text down and see where we go from here, and build, like I said before. Yeah.
Well, like, did you have any questions in your head? Like, oh man, I wish I could have asked, like, the writer, like this, like, so.
The trickiest part for me was was not using the actual music of the bands.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's really tricky.
As I was writing, I was like, oh, I'm kind of messing everybody up doing this. Oh well.
Well, that's great. No, that was a really great part about it. Like the not hindrances, but the tricky part of it made it great, because it was like, okay, we got to think around that. Okay, I can't use the actual music of the bands that we're mentioning, because I would have done that. I would have floated in this and that and underscored it with the actual band. But it was cool because we had to think outside of those parameters.
Yeah.
Did you have any expectation as to what you would be hearing today?
I tried to come in with no expectations whatsoever. And because like I didn't know who was going to be working on it. I didn't know it was going to be you, and I didn't know it was going to be you.
Right.
And so both both of the disparate directions that you went were like really pleasing to me. It was really cool just to hear the piece like set up the way that you did, and like the way that you responded in song was, oh man, it's incredible. It's really incredible to hear, like, to create something and have another creative person respond to it.
It's a weird blind collaboration.
Yeah.
You were like, because they said, here, write this thing, and you set it out in the world, and they handed it to us, and here, do a thing with this.
Yeah.
You know what else I wanted to say about yours was that when I hear like the bar sounds, when I first read the piece, I kind of felt like I had walked past or walked in on a conversation, or like I was sitting next to someone like drinking something or eating alone, and I'm like hearing them discuss this thing, and it's like, oh, that's an interesting conversation. And you kind of walk away after that with all of these thoughts about what you just heard, which also kind of went into like how I approach my piece. But the way you set up your recording kind of made me think about that. And also it's like, again, back to the visualization moment, where it's like you kind of have to see the thing in your mind before you actually like approach what you're going to do creatively.
Yeah.
Or just like kind of feel it in your mind a little bit before you do something.
I did exactly that. Like when I got the prompt, like I didn't start free writing at all. My practice is to just sort of let it marinate for a few days, a week. Like, okay, what do I have to say about this thing? And then like once I have an idea, once I have like a core idea, like, okay, I want to write about this and I want to make it say this, like, because I have this idea, I have this concept, then I'll hit the page. Okay, so like we've all been on this journey from prompts and writing through the process of like making your work, and now we're all at a table together having a discussion about it. And like talked about a lot of things. And like I'm curious like how we and other people listening to this podcast could like put something like this into practice in their everyday life, maybe without like all the folderol of, making like following a writing prompt and like creating work together or whatnot, or like, you know, how do we come closer together? How do we come closer together personally, like this going forward? Because like I probably wouldn't have wound up at a table with the two of you,
right?
Otherwise,
I think this demonstrated a huge amount of trust in all of us, because I didn't know where we were going and who was going to be here and what was going to come out of all this. I didn't know if my piece was going to come out well. I didn't know what the other piece was going to be like. I didn't know. And I just said, okay, yeah, let's try it. Let's go on with it and see. And I think that's what we have to do is trust in yourself and trust in other people.
Yeah. Being willing to make the leap and not be precious about the thing that you're creating. Just put it out in the world. Somebody's going to respond to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that really is a tricky question though. Because like, you know, trust and just being open and available to the possibilities, and also on your part taking the risk of doing something that someone may or may not like or respond to, but not taking it personally, because this could have been a totally different conversation had you been like, yeah, I kind of liked yours. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, again, you don't know what you're walking into. And so it's like, everybody drop your guard, drop like whatever you think is going to happen. Just be open and available to what could possibly happen, and don't take things so personally, you know?
Yeah, I really tried not to think about that because I didn't want it getting in the way of being able to write anything.
Did not knowing who else was involved help?
Oh, absolutely.
Same, yeah.
Because it helped not to feel like I was writing to somebody. Like I know that there are playwrights who work well when they know the actors who are going to be portraying the characters that they're writing. They can write to those people. They know those people's strengths. It was nice just being able to put something down on the page that I felt good about.
Yeah.
Just put it out in the world without pressuring myself.
Yeah. I think this, with everyone kind of being anonymous, also helped us not focus on things that weren't important. Like if it was a woman or a man or whatever the case may be. Yeah. Because it's like sometimes I feel like that gets in the way of the collaborative process too.
And we all ended up at this table together, but completely different backgrounds. But yes, you have to do something. Yeah. Start and try and fail and try again and fail again, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to our guest artists, our sponsors, Example 1 and Example 2, and thank you for listening.